What is the dumbest way the popular kid ducked up their life? Two of them decided to take hunting rifles and shoot several rounds into the principal's house at night, thinking the police wouldn't catch them and they would just not follow through with a possible attempted murder. Got addicted to drugs. Rich parents got him out, rehab, then got him a lucrative job that needs no qualification. Now he is still in media, well paid, enough that he became a functioning drug addict. Some people have everything handed to them, they can't even duck up properly. This kid wasn't necessarily popular, but he was on the verge. He wanted nothing more in the world than to be on our high school's cross-country team. He just didn't have the chops for it. He'd practice and try out repeatedly, but could never quite make the cut. Everybody knew about his desire to be on the team, and I think most of us were pulling for him, because he had the heart, just not the legs. Anyway, one day in gym class, we were having a fitness test in which we were to run laps around the outer perimeter of our school, and complete as many laps as possible. Most of us dropped out after a lap or two, and went to sit on the bleachers. There were a bunch of cross-country kids, though, who had taken this as a challenge, and were running seemingly endless laps. Not quite popular kid figured that if he could keep up with those guys, he'd show that he deserved to be on the team. Lap after lap, he hung right at the back of their pack, never catching up, but never falling completely away, either. The large group of us who had already given up and were sitting on the bleachers saw this, and we all started rooting for this kid, and watching closely. As the pack passed our bleachers on yet another lap, the kid following behind visibly sheet his pants. Turds poured from the leg holes of his gym shorts, and onto the pavement as we all watched in horror. The kid just kept running. On the next lap, our gym teacher, who fancied himself a drill sergeant, flagged the kid down, chewed his ass, and made him clean up the turds as we all sat there wishing for an unexpected asteroid strike to put us out of our collective misery. His popularity never recovered. He never ran a single meter for our cross-country team. If anybody wants to make a Rudy-esque film out of this, hit me up and I'll fill in the blanks. Kid was kinda smart, but an excellent multi-sport athlete. He had a full baseball scholarship lined up for a state school. The summer after senior year at a party he got drunk, picked a fight and got his knees broken. Don't know what happened to him, but I know he didn't go to college. Didn't exactly duck up his life, but he managed to put two brand new Audi A8s into the same telephone pole outside of school. Second time we all stuck around in the school parking lot to witness the aftermath. His dad was apocalyptic. You hit the same ducking pole. How he got a used banana yellow wagon after that. It was hilarious. Took pictures of himself getting head from the football coach's daughter and slipped a copy under the coach's office door as revenge for some slight against him. He was one of the top football players. He was dumb enough to think the coach's daughter wouldn't say who it was in the picture. Of course she told, and of course he knew, and of course he was kicked off the team. Few months of disciplinary actions after because he sort of spiraled and he was sent to one of those schools for people with difficulty functioning in normal schools. I don't know if it ruined his life, but it ruined his trajectory and he wound up dropping out of the local community college instead of going off to Florida State like he had planned. He decided it was a good idea to get high on pills and go for a drive. He ran over a lady and her dog, killing them both. He left his car and called the police to say that the car was stolen by a black guy. After they found the car and the accident, they called him into the station for a talk. He went up to the police station with the keys in his pocket. This guy was super confident and would party out, so when he was around 18, he had several girls in tow. But some years later he was still that same teenager personality, but now in his 20s, the girls were no longer impressed. So he did what probably made sense to him, started hitting on grossly underage girls instead, buying them beer and apparently had sex with one of them. When it came out, no one was super impressed. Especially the judge. He got hammered at 19 and rammed his car into a pole going 60-ish, flinging his body from the car and dying on impact. I hear our high school reunions are still very weird, as we had the one big reunion the year after graduation at his funeral. He was way cooler than me, but because the system sorted Gen Ed and APs by last name, we became friends from having so many classes we hated together. But he got on with everyone, and everyone showed up to say goodbye. I had a friend who was a straight A student. Everyone loved him and he came from a good middle class family. His day was a solicitor, I think. Never put a foot out of line. One day he came in and set off half a dozen smoke bombs in maths class. Turns out his dad was part of the Sealed Knot, an English Civil War reenactment society. The smoke bombs were used by his dad to simulate the smoke from cannons. He was quickly suspended and then sent for private schooling. Never seen a turnaround as quick. Apparently they are dangerous and his dad had signed something to say they were in a secure location. Not something you should steal, smuggle into secondary school and throw at the maths teacher because you forgot your homework. Flashy good-looking kid, John, who was honestly quite talented at taekwondo, kept pushing and poking and bullying the quiet new kid who immigrated from Venezuela. After the immigrant kid, Andre, had enough and pushed back, John challenged him to fight after school. The fight was over hilariously quickly. cked dude tried a flashy kick you'd see in a Van Damme movie and it looked good but missed. Andre just easily dodged it, threw a right hook to the jaw and then a left roundhouse kick to the face. John was out ducking cold standing up. Later we found out that Andre's dad was a former military police officer in Venezuela and a kickboxer of some repute, so he had taught his kid from an early age how to protect himself. Anyways, this happened in March and we never saw John till graduation in the summer. He spent the rest of the school year being homeschooled. He didn't become a pro baseball player like he told everyone he would because he partied too much and in turn became the meanest piece of shit ever anytime you would see him. He would bully the duck out of anyone he ran into from HS at bars to make himself still feel cool. Just a side note, he would mime playing baseball while you spoke to him the entire time. He got married and cheated on her repeatedly with strippers. When she found out and was planning to divorce him, he blew his head off with a shotgun. Many years ago. Got a full ride to West Point Military Academy. They even sent out a representative to our school to present to him at a ceremony in front of our class. Got 2-3 girls pregnant either before or during first year. Had to drop out. SMDH. 18 years. 18 years. She got one of your kids. Got you for 18 years. He and some other guys wanted to go to spring break early. So they stole a car and some gums, shot some poor lady in the face while trying to steal her car. After the first stolen car ran out of gas in Tennessee. Didn't make it very far. Then after spending many years behind bars, managed to escape, with a convicted murderer, with only like 18 months left on his sentence. They were caught while raiding some old man's refrigerator a few days later. Guess what, he didn't get out on time. Apparently they had been planning it for months, and despite me being one of his best friends, I hadn't a clue. Dude ducked his life for absolutely no reason and it still breaks my heart a little almost 30 years later. The lady survived BTW. Went to jail for something like accessory and parents got sued into oblivion. Rich kids playing gangster. Went with his friend to buy a couple pounds of weed up. What he didn't know was his friend wasn't going to pay for the weed up. His friend took out a tire iron and proceeded to beat the shit out of the supplier. What the two didn't know is that it was a local undercover cop. Cops is the richer of the two families. Kid got out of jail a couple years ago. Parents moved him across the country because he kept getting women pregnant. I know his mom and she turned into a zombie on pills. When I was in my first year of high school, hazing was still the norm, and yes, it started in high school. Usually you'd only get a bunch of upperclassmen cornering you to sing the Gordima Sigita song, but two of the most popular guys in my school decided they'd single out two girls, make them stay after school for hazing. One of them brought a new boyfriend. The popular upperclassmen didn't like this. From what I remember, those two popular guys bound the girls and guys' wrists, and when the 3 first years panicked, it got nasty. The first year ended up severely beaten after trying to stand up to those two. and the girls had all kind of injuries from trying to run away bound. This ended up on national news, with camera footage from the schoolyard. Yeah, those two were all brawn, no brain. Did they get arrested? I genuinely don't remember. One of the security guards discovered them, and the next day the whole school knew about it because we had a police car parked out front, with policemen in the teacher's lounge. The headmistress didn't even show up to her classes. I had her fall at class. It was torture. She was busy doing damage control, telling everyone to run away from reports lol. There were reporters later on, trying to deliver the news with my school as a backdrop, but I didn't see those in person, only on TV. As for the culprits, I didn't see them around after that. My best friend at that time used to sigh a lot over it because she had a crush on one of them and apparently non-con bondage in the schoolyard wasn't big enough of a red flag for her. Stockbroker trainee. Wanted to start a paintball business. Embezzled money from a client to start the business. Made lots of market bets to pay it off. Failed. Barred from the market. His dad had to pay it off in the fines, and lost his position as manager of the brokerage office for 2 years. And his paintball business failed. The best soccer player I faced in high school got a full ride scholarship to an Ivy League school. The summer before college he got pulled over with 3 pounds of weed up, a bunch of cash, and an unregistered shotgun. I think his family might have had money, so chances are he did fine in life, but way to duck up a free ride to Ivy League. Buddy of mine was pretty wild. Went on spring break, first week of March, to Cancun senior year, and he got into the marching powder pretty hard one night. Didn't make to the hotel. 3 months later he's at the embassy calling his parents. Apparently he went on quite the binge and was literally wearing rags and living on the streets when they came and got him. He committed to a college far away from his GF, who decided to not go to college. He had a football scholarship. She panics that he's going so far away and tells him she's pregnant to get him to stay. He withdraws from the school, gives up his scholarship, and decides to stay local to be around for his future child. Later find out the GF lied to get him to stay and his football prospects were all gone. There was no pregnancy. He's still in our hometown. 3 guys broke into the auditorium in the last couple months of senior year. Connected one of their phones to a really expensive speaker and played some music. Because they didn't know how to properly use the equipment, they ended up damaging it somehow. All 3 got charged with vandalism for kicking the doors open and breaking the locks. The one that hooked his phone up was charged for property damage for the sound equipment. Had to pay thousands to the guy that owned the equipment because it wasn't the school's. It was his stuff that he carted back and forth between 3 different schools for performances. All 3 kids got suspended and lost their scholarships. They were also not able to graduate, or at least if they did, they weren't allowed to participate at graduation. Was speeding and ran a 4-way stop sign. They bulged a little bit in the middle, so he went airborne. Car drifted in the wind off to the side of the road and dug into the ground. Pipes that were laid on the side of the road to replace water lines lined up perfectly with the front bumper and made the car and everything inside of it Swiss cheese. Couldn't have happened to a bigger doucher and his 2 best giant doucher friends. There were 2 groups of people in the high school. People who hated that we got dragged into rallies about how sad it was and rallies about safe driving. And kids who honestly realized that we actually could die and it scared them so bad they couldn't stop crying anytime any of their names were brought up. Like, I remember thinking to myself, why is she crying? He made her life a living hell for all of middle school and tried to light her hair on fire at that party last year. She tried to force feed the Jewish kid bacon and socked him when he refused. Because it was high school and she was actually 18. She got sent to jail but later got into even more trouble. She's in right now for aggravated assaulted. We lived in a small town in a rural county that was named after one of his relatives that settled the area in the 1880s. Big fish in a small pond type of mentality, had everything handed to them in middle school, high school. Never sat the bench in whatever sport he played, never really had to follow the same rules as everyone. Left the small town for the big city, was promptly smacked in the face with the reality that he wasn't king anymore, so he moved back home. super popular girl in a small town high school. She was the girl, and everyone wanted to be in her clique. Well, not me for whatever reason. I rubbed her the wrong way and she tried to get everyone to bully me. Fortunately, I had a whole other set of friends in the city, and I moved there. Full stop. Which is where I saw her and her baby a year later. She looked wild to have been recognized. This was in the 80s, so I'm pretty sure she had been sent to live with an auntie somewhere more anonymous. Don't worry, Jane, I never judged you. Two of our popular kids drove to local bagel shop for coffee and bagels during study hall, 2 or 3 weeks before graduation. They got caught, not sure how, and, having left school grounds, they weren't allowed to graduate and had to spend their summer at summer school. No idea if they were still able to go to their colleges or not. She started a job after high school graduation at a successful Italian restaurant cooking. Swiftly became a manager, and it became apparent she had an aptitude for business and accounting. The company offered to pay college tuition books in exchange for a commitment to stay after college graduation for 3 years while working 15 hours a week around school. She turned it all down to follow her boyfriend to a small town across the country where his buddy had a great gig going. They lasted 6 months. She's still in entry-level jobs there.